Today on the Transplant Helper, our topic of discussion, recipient donor contact. If you've ever wanted to contact your donor family, I'm going to tell you not only when to do that, how to do it, but what to say when you write those initial letters. Stay tuned. Hey folks, I appreciate you joining with me today on the Transplant Helper podcast / YouTube video series. My name is Jim Merle. As I said a moment ago in the teaser, today we're talking about recipient donor contact. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that if you're an organ transplant recipient of any kind, you along with myself would agree that you want to express to your donor or donor family your deep gratitude, appreciation, and thankfulness for what is, at that point at least, the most wonderful physical gift I know you have ever received. So today, as we discuss the process, I want to help you to do that. I want to help you to know how to do it, when to do it, and it's certainly what to do when you write those initial letters. And so we're going to divide that study up that way. Now, let me say in the beginning kind of a disclaimer that you need to be careful when you do make that initial contact, especially recipient to donor contact, that you're always aware of their emotions. Maybe if it's especially a deceased donor, their emotions are going to be extremely high for a certain time. You need to be aware of that and understand that if they don't turn around and write back or react exactly how you thought they might, that's okay. They need to do things in their way. You do things in yours. We're dealing with things from two different perspectives, but both high emotions on both ends. Also, in addition to that, and it's what we're going to talk about today for the most part, we need to be sure that when we make that initial contact, that we do that according to the criteria of our transplant centers / OPOs, or organ procurement organizations, that we follow their rules, we do it the way they say, and then that way that contact can be made. So with that said, let me start out answering the very first question, and that is, when do I contact my donor family? I'm asked this question all the time, face to face, as well as contacted via my website or through Twitter, whatever. When do I make that initial contact? The simple answer to that is you make the initial contact when you want to, whenever you feel like it. And I encourage people, especially post-transplant patients, to wait just a little while, maybe not even a matter of a few weeks, but wait just a little while so that you'll kind of know how you're doing, that your recovery process is far enough along so that you're at yourself and that you have the ability to write a good letter, if you will. Just that you got your senses mainly, but that you've also gathered your emotions. And take some time to consider what you say, because this is going to be a very, very important event in your life, trying to make this initial contact. So as far as when to do it, there used to be some criteria. State to state was different, but they used to say wait 6 months, wait a year. Generally speaking, nationwide, they don't require that anymore. They encourage you, like I'm doing, just to go ahead and make the contact whenever you feel the notion or feel the desire to do that. So that's what I'm going to stick with. But again, check with your OPOs and transplant centers before doing that. Down to the next question, which is a little bit more lengthy. Not only when to write, but how do we write these letters? How do we reach out to those people with the cards or letters or notes, whatever we're putting together? Well, again, we have to do it according to the criteria, whether it be criteria on a national level or criteria on a state or district level, whatever that is, region level. You have to do it the way they say. And if you fail to do that, then you can be assured that your letters that you try to send to your donor are probably going to be trashed, thrown out, shredded, whatever. They're not ever going to make it. So follow their criteria. Now, for the most part, and in general, you can say initial contact always needs to be, and it's suggested that it needs to be very generic. For example, in most states, when you write those initial letters from recipient to donor, you're told not to use anything but your first name, not to put in middle names, last names, or nicknames, to use only your first name when you write that initial letter. You're told not to put your address on the outside of the envelope or inside the letter or anything like that. And of course, the way that's able to be done is you generally are mailing your letter to your organ procurement centers, and then they're turning around and mailing those letters or forwarding those letters on to your donor family. So you cannot put your name, all of your name at least, first name only. You're encouraged just to put or not to put your address, not to put email addresses, not to put social media handles, not to put phone numbers or any kind of details like that However, they do encourage you when you write those things to try to be very personal. So I know that's really kind of a balancing act to try to make sure that you're being very personal, but then at the same time you're not releasing too much information, which, by the way, they also suggest that you don't mention any family members by name, you don't mention your doctors by name, you do not mention your transplant center by name. For like in my example, because I'm an Alabama resident and my transplant was done in the state of Alabama, there's only one heart transplant or at least licensed heart transplant center in the state, and that's UAB Hospital. So if I would have put out there in my first letter that I'm glad to get my heart at UAB, it wouldn't take very long, especially with modern technology and social media and the internet like it is, for that family to reach out and sneak around the gate, if you will, and try to contact me when we're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to be going through our transplant organizations as well as remaining anonymous. So just be sure about what you don't put in the letter, but just be sure to be personal, and that's where we move in the next part. So when do you write? Answer short call answer. Write when you want to. How do you write? According to their criteria, basically anonymously. And then what do you write? This is really where the rubber meets the road. And all of us as recipients are going to be very different, such as our donor family would be when they write us, make that initial contact with us. We really just don't know what to say. We do want to speak of our gratitude, appreciation, and thankfulness. We want to tell them how overwhelmed we are by such a gift. There's no doubt that's all pretty much universal, but we're not actually sure what to write. And a lot of times as transplant patients, at least the patients I deal with, people will tell me, I haven't written yet, or I hadn't contacted them yet because I don't know what to say. And I usually answer that by saying, well, I didn't either. I really didn't either. But there are some criteria. There are some standards you can follow, some suggestions I'm going to give you now that will help you to know what to write. Number one, when you're writing those letters, even though you're having to be anonymous, tell them about your wait. Tell them about what you and your family went through while you were waiting on transplant. For me, I waited on transplant really for several years, but I was on the list, waiting on the list for about 10 months. And for that 10-month period, for 265 days, literally, I stayed on a 24/7 IV medication. I was in and out of the hospital constantly. I ended up being condemned, as I say, to the hospital there that last month or so of that time, where I wasn't able to go home. It was either get a transplant or die in the hospital. I didn't want to face that, so tell them about that process. Tell them, like I did, tell them about what you missed. For me personally, I have several children that I love dearly, and at the time, I missed the chance to be able to run and jump and play like I had in times past, to be able to, be there for my wife. Typically, I was sleeping as a pre-heart transplant patient and stage 4 heart failure. I was sleeping 16 or 18 hours a day just to try to survive. I'd get up in the morning, try to take a shower, have to take a nap because of that. I didn't want to eat because after I ate, I got so fatigued and tired, I didn't feel like doing anything for the rest of the day. So tell them a little bit about that. Let them know what you've been through, where you've been, And then from that point, I would say then as you continue to add the gratitude in amongst all this, then turn to what's life like now. Most likely, and depending on how far you are from your transplant, how much recovery process is behind you, most likely you can already begin to tell them about the changes that have occurred. For me, I was back to being awake. I was back to running and playing with my children. I was back to doing yard work. I was back to being there for my wife and enjoying my family again. That was wonderful. All that has continued for 4 years. Although things are not perfect, they're generally just wonderful. And so tell them about that. Tell your donor family, that life has certainly changed, and that it's changed because of them and because of their gift or their loved one's gift in most cases, that your life is altogether different. And through that, you are expressing your gratitude. Now, anything else you want to put in there probably would be up to you. Life events that either you have missed or now you've seen. I know a lot of people can say that because I received my transplant, I was able to see my son or daughter to get married, or I was able to see the birth of my child or grandchild, and a lot of things come about by that. But tell them about your life, the life events. Tell them about things that you're involved in, your hobbies, your interests. Tell them as much as you can emotionally, to make that connection, so that if that donor family wants to reach back to you, maybe they'll choose to do that. Now, on the other side of that, let me just do this very briefly. If you are a donor family reaching for your recipient, do pretty much the same thing. Remain anonymous. Tell them, however, about your family member that made the donation, whether they're alive or deceased, most of the time deceased, but tell them about their life, how wonderful they were, what they meant to you, and how grateful you were to be able to make that donation. Because a lot of times what this donor-recipient contact is about, it's about beginning the healing process and starting new relationships, starting new lives. As I say, I talk to my donor mama every week, and I enjoy that because now they are a part of my family. At least that's the way I see them, and certainly I think also, at least they say, the way they see me. So let me encourage you to do it. Do it on your own time. Do it according to the criteria of your transplant center. And when you write, just be honest, be open, be personal as far as telling them about your life and how it's changed. This is a wonderful, wonderful gift. Now, if this program has helped you in any way, I would hope that you would like, subscribe, and share. And especially right now, go ahead and punch that subscribe button, because all I've tried to do each week and every time I produce one of these programs is to try to advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. So hopefully this program has helped you, and if it has, then go ahead and do whatever you can to help the cause, because I'm not working just to help one family or one person. I'm trying to reach as many people as I can, and I know if you're a transplant patient, you would want that to take place too, and maybe this is what you can help just by sharing these videos. Again, I certainly appreciate your time. I hope that you have those relationships with your families already, and if not, maybe something I've said today can help you with that. But until next time, until we get together again, stay stronger, friends.